Good morning, everyone. So hopefully you can hear me all right. I had a speaker go out, which may have affected my microphone, but not real sure. We'll see how this video turns out. If you hear a hum in the background, that is the vending machine working. So, excuse me. I've got a little bit of a phlegm in my throat, so didn't sleep well last night. But anyways, someone had asked why we destroy the hard drives the way we do. Well, in order to understand that, you have to understand how a hard drive works. And so today we're going to do a little bit of a dive into hard drives. Now, if you've ever bought a brand new hard drive and installed it in your computer, or we've done it for you, you might have seen where, we've sold it to you and it's a 1 terabyte hard drive, but when you look at the free space available on your computer, it's only 931. Why is that? Well, that's because the first 69 gigabytes of a 1 terabyte hard drive is your boot records and your master file tables. And so let me see if I can find that real quick. I do have some photos. So yeah, so the boot sector takes up a part of it, and then the master file table takes up a part of it. And the master file table, and the fact there's two, there's a primary and a mirror. The master file table keeps track of every file, either complete or in partial, on your hard drive. So when you save a file to your computer, if it's small, it can usually fit in one spot. But if it's a large file like a game, and I've seen some games get really, really big, when it actually saves it to your hard drive, whether you're downloading it or installing it, it will install a part of it here, and then a part of it here, then a part of it here, then a part of it here, and it does this until the whole file is done. The master file table is responsible for knowing where each segment of a file is or located at. So that's why that master file table, and there's a secondary, a mirror master file table, that's why it takes up so much space. It knows the location of every spot on the hard drive, and it also, that in that spot, it's kind of like an array, kind of like a table like this. So it would be like, here's the address, what's there. And so this way, when the hard drive is searching for a file, it knows, it looks at the master file table, knows exactly where to look. And this is why defragging your hard drive is kind of important, to do it like once a week or once a month, because it takes these fragments of a partial file and puts them all back together into one continuous file, which is easier on the hard drive to actually read one large continuous file versus 30 fragments of a file. It just loads up faster. So kind of like a deep dive into needing to know this. But yeah, the first sector is your boot record, and then after the boot sector is your master file table and your secondary master file table. That's why it takes, on a 1 terabyte hard drive, 69 gigabytes worth of space. So if you've gotten a brand new hard drive, like I said, and you've formatted it for the first time, the first thing that format does is there anything to put in the boot sector? Because it's reserved space. And then it creates your master and secondary master file tables. So it knows the location of every file on your hard drive. So with that being said, let me open this up. Here's a better example of this. So on that first section of your hard drive, there's the boot sector. This is what, when you turn on your computer, you see the logo of your computer, whether it be HP, Dell, Lenovo, whatever, and the spinnies start. That's, at that particular point with the logo, that is the BIOS chip or the CMOS, checking all the equipment. Hard drive, are you here? Memory, are you here? Processor, are you here? So on and so forth. Once it passes all that checks, it hands off to the boot sector, and the boot sector continues on the process. And that's when you see the kind of like the screen flip. The spinnies will continue, but it's usually a black screen or a blue screen. It may say welcome, but that's where the boot sector is. If a boot sector goes bad on a hard drive, just replace the hard drive. It can be repaired, but usually once bad sectors start in a boot sector, it's not worth it. So same with the master file table. This is why there is a mirror. So you have your master file table and then you have a secondary. So if corruption happens in the master file table, it's got a secondary to check. Backup boot sector, yeah, they do have it. Almost, I've never seen it officially work, but we do use this backup. Like if we get a hard drive that comes in and the operating system has been corrupted and it won't boot properly, we will go into the backup boot sector, copy it to the boot sector, and make it work that way. One of the things that we do, especially when cloning hard drives, we'll clone a hard drive from like a mechanical drive to an SSD, or from a smaller drive to a bigger drive. We'll do those clones. Most times the clones go through perfect and don't have a problem. But if I can't get it to clone from within its own machine, where I have to take both the hard drives, the new one and the old one, and actually hook it up to my computer, this one here, and clone it that way, I almost always have to go into the boot sector, or go into the backup boot sector, copy over to the boot sector to make it work. I don't know why that is, but it just is. But anyways, why is this all kind of important? Well, here's the reason why. When you create a file, again, as I showed you in those sectors, the master boot file table says that the file or the fragment of the file is located from here to here. Could be the whole file, could be just a fragment of the file, but that's what it's saying. And so what happens is these little flags get popped up on the hard drive. And so if the master file table goes bad and the secondary goes bad, I actually have software for data recovery. I've used it for many of you all, that will go through and read these flags. And what it does is it doesn't even look at the master boot record or the master file table. It just goes through and reads the flags on the hard drive. If the flag is up, there's a file. Usually in the first 32 bits, or maybe it's 64 bits now, usually in the first 64 bits of that file is the name of the file or something of that nature. So if your file is fragmented, you might have multiples of these all over your hard drive, but it'll say this is the beginning of such and such a file, and at the tail end go to here. And so it would know to go to the next one. So when we do a data recovery, which is a level 1 or level 2 data recovery, if these flags are up, we can recover them. Ironically, our data recovery software will also look for the flags that are knocked down. Now, these flags are kind of important. So when you delete a file from your computer, especially with the Windows operating system, now I think Linux and Macs do it a little bit different, but the concept is still the same. So here's your file. If you deleted that file, what the computer does is, one, it knocks the flags down and marks it as space is free to be used. In other words, you can overwrite it now. So if a file started here and a file started here, it would use this space. It also goes into the master file table and tells it this file is no longer here, this file is no longer here, this file is no longer here, and marks that space available for free. Excuse me. When you delete a file, it usually copies it to your recycle bin. We always know what this is. This is where a backup of all your files does. So it removes it from the original location on your hard drive, copies it to a special folder on your computer called recycle bin. Knocks the flags down, goes to the master file table, records it as no longer there. In fact, it records it as being in the recycle bin. And so, if another file comes along and needs that space, it overwrites this space because the flags are knocked down. When it overwrites it, it puts the flags, might be higher or further up, further down, might be less or whatever, but the flags have been knocked down so the computer knows the space is free. Now, if your hard drive, say you deleted a file, you emptied your recycle bin, you realized, crap, I shouldn't have done that. You can use specialized programs. Windows comes with this one called Undelete. I'll have to make a video on how to use it. If you like immediately did it, you can use a program that comes with Windows called Undelete. If it's not available in the Windows 10 operating system, I believe you can download it from Microsoft, and it will immediately recover that file. If it had been days and weeks, and we see this a lot, especially when hard drives are starting to go bad and you get bad sectors, and flags start dropping off for no reason, or you've got a file here and a bad sector goes zoop and just erases a part of that file. If it's been days or weeks, or if you've reloaded your operating system, or an update has gone through and reorganized your computer, which happens twice a year on a major update. Security updates go through usually every Tuesday. If you lose a file, as soon as you recognize you've lost that file, you need to get a hold of us so we can run our specialized software through here and see if we can, one, read the previous flags, read if the flag is knocked down, and hopefully recover it if it has not been written by another file. Why is this important? Because if it is, the longer you use the hard drive, the more likely it's going to use this space, especially if it's towards the beginning of the hard drive. A hard drive will move in kind of like the old record players. You start at the very edge and it moves in. Hard drives physically work that way. SSDs work a little bit different. So if you have a solid state hard drive, obviously there's no moving mechanical parts. It's all memory chips. Mechanical or SSDs kind of like move files around all the time to balance out the load of the solid state hard drive and to extend its life. So we can recover SSDs sometimes. Very rare though, because usually when an SSD dies, it's dead. Best thing to do with it, take a hammer, bust it up. But on a mechanical drive, the file is still there if the space has not been recovered. So if you've seen this in fiction TV shows or true crime where someone has, forensic has gone through the computer and found all of these files, that's what it is the person may have deleted them, knocked down the flags, but the hard drive was never shredded, so they use specialized software, kind of like what we do, to go in and recover those files. Kind of frightening, isn't it? So, yeah, so if you've deleted a file, it gets recorded in the master file table as that space is now free. The flags get knocked down so the hard drive knows it can use that space again, and of course a copy of it gets put in your recycle bin. Until you delete your recycle bin, same thing, then it knocks the flags down, lets it know there's more space there. Again, why do we physically destroy hard drives? Excuse me. When we physically destroy a hard drive, like I said, that ruins the master file table, that ruins the secondary file table, that ruins the boot sector. And the other thing it does is it completely makes this unreadable. And especially when we physically tear them apart and we degauss them or scratch them up so they're unreadable. Short of a level 3 clean room, which you're not gonna, that's an expensive process. Short of a level 3 clean room, you're not going to get anything off of it once we've physically destroyed a hard drive. Like I said, we have level 1, which is undelete, and level 2, which is file recovery. Software here. Most times we can get a lot of things, sometimes we can't. We've seen file recoveries where it says, yeah, I got the file, and we look at the file and it's corrupted or damaged because a new file started here. So as soon as you discover you have lost files and you need them recovered, definitely get a hold of us right away. That way we can take care of it. But yeah, that was something I wanted to show you. This is how basically a physical mechanical drive works. SSDs work a little bit different. But like I said, that first sector is your boot sector. Then you have your master file table and your secondary master table. That's why between these three, they take up like 69 gigabytes of a 1 terabyte hard drive to map everything on this hard drive. And when you like I said, you delete something, you never actually ever delete it. There's always a fragment of it somewhere. Even using format, only thing if you format a hard drive, the only thing a format does is takes and knocks down all the flags, empties out the master file table. So yeah, if you're getting rid of a computer, you want to make sure that it's completely unreadable. Tear it apart, drill it, put bleach in it, shotgun blast or bullet blast, hammers until it just is shattered. That's why we tear them apart. This way, like I said, if we damage those platters enough, and some hard drives have 4 of these platters in it, if we damage those platters enough, then there is no way you can recover it, even if you put it in a clean room. And if you did put it in a clean room and they spent the time to try and recover it, you might get pieces of a file like the letter A here or something of that nature, but you're not ever going to recover an entire file once we tear it apart. And again, like I said, we do that for clients because that way identity theft, is minimized. Again, I've showed you pictures in the last video where, we physically tore them apart, and the magnets that are in there and the platters that are in there. But that's why we physically do it, because say someone came in here and took our box of hard drives that have been recycled. Those platters have been destroyed enough that the average person, the average criminal, is not going to expend the time to try and get whatever information off of it. Even if someone like a millionaire came in here and dropped off their hard drive and said destroy it, and we destroyed it in the way we do, even if the criminal knew that it was, a millionaire's hard drive, they're not going to spend $2,500 to $10,000 sending that hard drive or those platters to a clean room just to get off information. Most criminals, I don't want to say are lazy, but you least amount of work for the greatest profit. So that's how generally it works, even in the criminal world. If it's going to be too much work, don't do it. And so that's why, like I said, we'll degauss them, we'll scratch them with sandpaper. June cuts them up and uses them for crafts, and then, like I said, when they get exposed to sunlight, that just destroys them even more. So yeah, that's why we do that. If you have deleted a file or you need files recovered, your computer took a dump, you got into system recovery and you said restore my computer, and you did the wipe and reinstall option, now all of your files are gone. Turn off your computer, bring it to us, let us use our data recovery software and see what we can get. Most of the time, if it's very recent, like you just did it, up to about 3 to 4 days of use, most of the time we can get the vast majority of your personal files recovered. Not always. We have seen in the past where I had a client a few years ago wiped and reinstalled their hard drive because, hey, that's what Windows told them and they didn't know any better. And when we came to do the data recovery about 4 days later, it recovered the files, got all the file names, got all the file sizes, but all the files were corrupt. They were completely unusable. That's why as soon as you discover it, you got to call us so we could do the data recovery. And data recovery is not too expensive. It's, I pull the hard drives, I slave them to the computer. The software is automatic. It might take 2 hours. It might take 24. So it's an automatic process. I generally don't have to do anything at that point unless there's an error message that pops up like a bad sector, unreadable file. Do you wish to continue? Yes. But it's once it goes through the automatic process, then that's where I start worrying about my time, because that automatic process can take, like I said, 2 hours. It could take 24. I had one couple of years ago I was telling you about for a client who wiped and reinstalled their computer. It ran for 5 days. Yeah, I was quite surprised with that. I mean, it was a brute. I used my brute force data recovery program to find anything and everything. We found, I don't know, something like a 400, 500,000 files. Most of them were just, Windows-based related stuff, but the files that we wanted and that we needed, 20,000 of them, I would say the vast majority of them, 95% of them, were corrupted and couldn't be recovered. There was nothing I can do. Unfortunately, I think even in a level 3 clean room, you would have gotten the same results. But yeah, if as soon as you notice you're missing files, you got to call us so we can get that process started, because the more you use your computer, the more chances of it, another file overwriting it and corrupting it. So that's it. That's why we physically destroy them, because if we just deleted them or just wiped them, your information's still there, and it's fully recoverable with level 2 software. Level 2 software is not cheap, though, just to give you warning. I use it a lot, but level 2 software is not cheap. So if you want to do it yourself, there's a bunch of companies out there that will sell you the software for it. But yeah, level 2 software is not cheap. Level 1, like I said, which is Undelete, I think Microsoft gives it away for free. But there are other ones out there who you can get, relatively cheap, like $30 or less. But yeah, level 2 recovery, that software is not cheap. The last big one I had to buy was like almost $400 for level 2 recovery. So yeah, it's not cheap. Bring it to us. Let us do it. We're far, because we're only going to charge you a fraction of that. So yeah, that's why we physically destroy the hard drives, because if you just wipe them and it just knocks those flags over, and if you got level 2 software, boom. And I don't want to say any decent cyber criminal, but those who are a little bit higher up on the cyber criminal scale, they all have level 2 data recovery software, whether it be legit or stolen, hard to say. But if some low-level criminal, druggie, crackhead, whatever, broke into the shop and took a whole bunch of hard drives, if they're just going to sell it to someone else, who's going to sell it to someone else, eventually gets to a level 2, or a person who has a level 2 software, and then they could go through. That's why we physically destroy them. So that's why we do what we do. And if you've got questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section. I'll try to go into a little more detail if I can. If not, you can always ask us on Facebook. It's right here. That's how you find us. If you found this knowledgeable and you liked it, please like and share and subscribe to the channel. Greatly helps. There is a donation link down at the bottom, because YouTube does not pay me for these videos as of yet. I need to get a whole bunch of more subscribers and a whole lot more watch time. So hopefully in a year, I might take 2 from what I'm saying. But yeah, like, share, and subscribe. Share it on Facebook. I know I put it up on our Facebook, and then I shared across some groups so people were aware of it. But yeah, share it with anyone and everyone, because people need to know this. It's kind of like working on your car. I could change the oil on my car, but ask me to do something a little more complex. Nope, that's what I pay people for. So you guys have a great day. I will talk to you later.